the question that I mentioned in the previous and adjoining video. And by the way, please like, share, and subscribe to Hard Starboard Radio channel on YouTube.com. But here's the question, and before I pose it, just understand that Sean Hannity has come to embody the average Trump supporter. I mean, Sean Hannity is, he is a Trump bootlicker, a Trump ass kisser, a Trump sycophant, a Trump acolyte, a Trump worshiper. I mean, he is like Aaron to Trump's Moses. So this is Sean Hannity represents each and every one of you Trump supporters out there. And thus, whenever I mention the name Sean Hannity, just put your own name in there, and because it's all the same thing. Here's the question. Why does Sean Hannity want Hillary Clinton to win? You might think that's a provocative question, Trumplicans, but it really isn't. It's a genuine question that I am posing to you all. Why do you want Hillary to win? If you didn't want Hillary Clinton to win, if stopping Hillary was so important, why didn't you nominate Ted Cruz? Or better yet, why didn't you nominate Marco Rubio, who was the most electable Republican in the entire overcrowded GOP field? Why do you want Hillary Clinton to win? Now, in Sean Hannity's case, and he represents all of you Trumplicans out there, rather than hold Donald Trump to his promise to pivot to being presidential, to being a normal candidate, Hannity is defending Trump's BS, just like all of you are, referring to Trump supporters. This is an honest question. This is an honest question. Why do Trumplicans, represented by Sean Hannity, want Hillary Clinton to be president? Jonah Goldberg asks. I don't get it either. You know, because that's the thing that's always hurled at us never-Trumpers is, well, then you're supporting Hillary. No, we're not supporting Hillary. It's not a binary choice. You took away our choice by shoving Trump down our throats. We now have no choice. Our choice is between a Democrat and a Democrat, between a National Socialist and a Marxian Socialist. We don't have a choice. You took it away from us. And you have deluded yourselves into believing that Trump is some sort of conservative savior, when there is absolutely, positively no evidence, no documentary evidence, no proof. I mean, the only thing you can point to was, well, Trump said this, and we know what Donald Trump's word is worth. Zero. And to borrow a trope from Barack Hussein Obama, let me be clear about being clear for clarity's sake. I'm not referring to the entirely valid, 100% correct, indisputably sound argument that it was batshit crazy to nominate Trump in the first place. What's done is done, and Sean Hannity will no doubt one day receive the golden hair helmet for his staccatovite effort to get Donald Trump the nomination. Let no one forget his yeoman service in the cause of blowing up the Republican Party and empty a septic tank into the groundwater of the conservative movement. Just so we reestablish the particulars. But again, that's not what I have in mind. For more than a year, Trump and his choir assured everyone that he would indeed pivot and become more presidential. As Trump told Hannity back in March, "At the right time, I will be so presidential that you'll call me and you'll say, 'Donald, you have to stop that. It's too much.'" As I get closer and closer to the goal, it's going to get different, he told Greta Van Susteren in February. I will be changing very rapidly. I'm very capable of changing to anything I want to change to. As Goldberg wrote last week, this was always a lie and a ridiculous thing to say, even if it weren't. Trump can no more promise to be presidential than a leopard can promise to be a top-loading washing machine that runs on good intentions when in energy saver mode. But as 8 trillion eggs on Twitter keep telling him, what I think doesn't matter. But Hannity believed it. Hannity even suggested in that interview that the real Trump, the one Hannity supposedly has known for years, in other words, Trump has been playing him for that long, is the presidential one. Hannity, in effect, seconded Trump's own assurance that Trump could change instantly into a mainstream, mature candidate whenever he wanted. Many honest and decent people pocketed this IOU of presidentialness. In fact, this promise of a new, disciplined Trump seemed to be the only thing that kept Hugh Hewitt off of suicide watch. Now, at this juncture, let me interject something. A little bit of logic. I know Trumplicans aren't really well acquainted with logic, but let me just interject it anyway, just because I enjoy doing so. Wasn't one of the biggest things that Trumplicans have always liked about Trump precisely that he was a grandstanding buffoon, that he was a celebrity, that he was an entertainer? Remember how the fact that he was an entertainer and knew how the media worked, that was going to work to his favor? We could turn the media to our side. Remember that? That was the one of the raison d'etres of Trump's candidacy, that he wasn't a regular politician, that he wasn't mainstream, mature, conventional. That's why Trumplicans liked him, fell in love with him, lost their minds over him. And that's always puzzled me, this idea that, well, Trump can pivot to being presidential. Why would he want to do that if that's what his fans loved most about him, that he wasn't presidential? It would be the ultimate betrayal of his supporters if he toned it down and chained himself to a teleprompter and just became as boring as Hillary Clinton. And you know why? Because if he did that, if he forfeited the entertainment factor, what would be left? The fact that his agenda is more or less indistinguishable from Mrs. Clinton's. It's just, that's the logic of it. I can only imagine what Trumplicans would do if they took his advice. By the way, I got an email in case you didn't notice. So since last week's G-file, Trump has now stated unequivocally that he won't change his style one bit. Of course, this is no surprise to never-Trumpers. I don't know if it's a surprise to Trumplicans. I don't even think they care. I think Trumplicans have never been about stopping Hillary. The only thing that Trumplicans have ever really been about is burning down the Republican Party. They didn't really care about stopping Hillary. They always throw that at never-Trumpers now in order to try to shame us into closing ranks, into knuckling under, submitting, running up the white flag, getting us to throw our principles overboard just like they have. But they were never about stopping Hillary. This was always about burning down the Republican Party. And how does that make them different from the left? This is the logic of it, and you can't deny it. Not logically. Which, of course, is why Trumplicans and logic don't tend to occupy the same vicinity. But Trump has now stated unequivocally that he won't change his style one bit. Either his asshole at the end of the bar routine pays off or it doesn't. At the end, it's either going to work or I'm going to have a very, very nice long vacation, Trump told CNBC. A couple days before that, he basically said the same thing to Fox Business. And as if to underscore that point, that same day he went and made his joke about Second Amendment people. When I heard that, I wanted to call Hughes producer Dwayne Patterson and suggest that he confiscate Hughes' belt and shoelaces. Hugh Hewitt, that is. So here's the thing. As Double H and other reluctant Trump backers have conceded countless times, if Trump doesn't change, and he can't, he will lose. Badly. Even his fanboys know this, which is why the stabbed in the back tantrums against Trump opponents are intensifying. For instance, in his most sincere, I'm really serious, you guys, voice, Sean Hannity says he will hold conservative Trump opponents accountable for Hillary's victory. No, really, seriously, here's what he tweeted. Republicans who are sabotaging Donald Trump will get the Hillary Rodham Clinton they deserve. And yes, I will hold them accountable. As Scott Hall used to do in his promos. Ooh. Oh, I'm so scared. No, Hannity. No, Trumplicans. We're going to hold you responsible because you are the ones who are responsible for this disaster. I don't know. Maybe Hannity thinks he can get some kind of tribunal going. The trial of the Never-Trumpers with Sean Hannity. Yeah, that'd certainly make for some boffo ratings. Probably better than the ratings his show does get. But again, here's another thing to consider. And I don't mean this as an insult to Sean Hannity, though if he wants to take it as one, I don't care. No one who doesn't already love Donald Trump is listening to Hannity or Ingram or Savage or Limbaugh. I wonder if Limbaugh ever considered that. Oh, he's afraid of losing a large chunk of his audience by not pandering to Trumplicans, thus betraying the conservative principles that Limbaugh has always purported to stand for all these years. But he has to have lost another portion of his audience, aka Never-Trumpers. And I honestly don't know which is the bigger group, but the bottom line is, like I just got through saying, no one who doesn't already love Trump is listening to these people about the topic of Donald Trump. No one. Just as no one who went all in for Cheeto Jesus is paying any attention to me either. Well, which is fine. The big sort of the Trump era has been very useful in this regard. Which is why, by the way, there won't be any kiss and make up after the November 8th debacle. Not for a long time. Unless, well, it depends on how big a bunch of cowards Trump supporters are. I mean, will they act like, well, we were drunk, we lost our minds for a while. I mean, I guess it depends on how good their excuses are. Just like their orange demigod, I guess. We'll see. I mean, because they're going to be pointing fingers and I don't see a kiss and make up after this election. I don't know if it's a permanent split, but there's going to be a long period of screw you, I'm going home after this. Now, Sean Hannity's threats and bullying are for the entertainment benefit of an audience that doesn't need threats or bullying. They're already in love with Trump. It's basically preaching to the choir. Except as an exercise in masochism, why would somebody horrified by Trump watch Hannity's nightly Trump Hour brought to you by special guest director Roger Stone? Except maybe for the health updates on Hillary Clinton, which I have kept my readers apprised on as well. That's the only way that Trump can win is if Hillary Clinton drops dead or has a stroke and is incapacitated. Otherwise, there are simply no gettable Trump skeptical voters paying attention to Hannity or the other Trumplican party enforcers. The tantrums directed at the Never Trump crowd are for internal consumption, blame shifting, conscious easing, maybe to lay the groundwork for a purge of the new National Socialist GOP, but it's more likely that we will take the party back after they will have laid waste to it. Like I say, I'm not in any big hurry to take you people back, speaking for myself. You're going to have to do a whole lot of groveling as far as I'm concerned. But the really important point is that the let's root out the kulaks zeal inflaming the folks in Trump Bart world notwithstanding, the simple fact is that Trump isn't losing because of us. We're not putting Hillary Clinton in the White House. Remember that dichotomy that on the one hand, well, never Trump, you're just a bunch, you're insignificant, you don't have, there are not that many of you, you're just a little bundle of band of malcontents, you're irrelevant, you have no effect on any of this. And then on the other hand, somehow it's all our fault when Hillary wins. So, pick one. It can't be both. But the fact of the matter is Trump is not losing because of the Never Trump brigades. I conceded 3 months ago. Yeah, there aren't that many of us, comparatively speaking. You have the hardcore Trumplicans, and then you have the kind of the mercenary, just as long as they have an R after their name, that's all that matters to us crowd. There aren't that many of us Never Trumpers. I never said otherwise. Consequently, it's simply stating a fact when I say that Trump is not losing because of the Never Trump brigades, because of us. He's losing because millions of people who don't know or care about people like us, true conservatives, don't like Trump and are scared to death of him. Remember that line from Captain America, the First Avenger, the first Captain America movie? The scene where Dr. Erskine approves Steve Rogers' enlistment application. But he asked, and Erskine asked him, "So you want to kill Nazis?" And Rogers replied, "I don't want to kill anyone. I just don't like bullies. I don't care where they're from." Well, that's what Donald Trump is. He's a bully. He's a bully, and that's how independent voters, that's how the larger general electorate are going to see him. That's how they do see him. And he's not doing anything to disabuse them of that notion. That gets back to this whole notion of Trump can pivot to being presidential. The hell he can. You're not one way for 40 years and it never having had any consequences, and then you just flip, you just pivot like that, and all of a sudden that all goes away. That's not how narcissism works. Bill Kristol, Jonah Goldberg, Kevin Williamson, Jim Treacher, Guy Benson, Ben Shapiro, Eric Erickson, John Podolak, Steve Hayes, George Will, Peggy Noonan, and yours truly could endorse Trump tomorrow and he'd still be drowning with college-educated Republicans, women, minorities, etc., etc., etc. By the way, I was a college-educated Republican. Now I'm a college-educated independent because the Republican Party left me. I didn't leave the GOP. But why is that? Why is Trump drowning with the general electorate? Why is he behind on average by 7 or 8 percentage points in the polls? Because he's making a fool of himself daily. It's as if he lost his car keys in his rectum and he's looking to find them face first. I mean, I get that this is very hard for Trumplicans to hear. I also don't care. In fact, that's kind of what makes this so much fun. Nothing is as much fun as dispensing truth to people who do not want to be set free. Because eventually you're going to have to come to grips with this. You do realize that, do you not? I mean, it's a bit like the cliched Jewish mother who just doesn't understand how anyone could not love her boy. Or as Mrs. Seinfeld put it to Jerry, how could anyone not like you? I watched Trump talking like he should be pushing a shopping cart under the West Side Highway, and I think how can anybody take this guy seriously? But hey, one man's trash is another man's treasure. Which brings us back to the question, why do Trumplicans, as represented by Sean Hannity, want Hillary Clinton to win? Rather than hold Trump to his promise to pivot, Hannity is defending Trump's BS. Still, Hannity hosts a nightly infomercial for a product the customers have already bought. Actually, now it's a place for psychological counseling and reinforcement. Something to assuage their subconscious guilt, keep them from running away, coming to their senses. Why not expend some energy trying to change the product so that others will buy it too? Well, these are rhetorical questions, of course. I mean, would that be too much like asking the crowds at the Coliseum to downgrade their lust for spectacle and Christian disembowelment? Do you think Trump's hardcore supporters are so selfish that they won't tolerate even a little sanity and sobriety from the nominee, if only to beat Hillary? Well, that's even more rhetorical of a question. Of course they wouldn't tolerate it. This nonsense is why they backed Trump in the first place. And he's already accomplished what they really wanted, burning down the GOP. They don't care about... Yeah, that's right. Every last one of you Trump supporters, and this includes you, Doug, you don't really want to stop Hillary. And you never did. You just wanted to burn down the Republican Party. And I know what Doug has said, well, I'm as close to never Trump as I can be without being never Trump. If that were true, that wouldn't be that big an additional step to take. But you didn't, did you? You've made your bed, Mr. Gibbs. Now you're going to have to lie in it. And it just so happens that it's short-sheeted and urine-soaked and, well, you know the rest. I mean, but Goldberg continues with the rhetorical questions. Give these people some credit. I've seen a bunch of interviews with attendees of Trump rallies who say they'd like to see more discipline from Trump. No, you haven't, Jonah. If they wanted more discipline, they wouldn't have been supporting Trump. That's the logic of the situation. And no, they don't. They say they want to defeat Hillary, but I don't think they really do. I don't think they really care, because that wasn't what it was about for them. The simple fact is this. Trump will not win unless he changes, and he's not capable of changing. And if he did change, his supporters, well, who knows? Maybe they've drunk so much Kool-Aid, maybe they're so addled that anything he does is fine with them. But he's not capable of changing, so he can't win. And that is what we said from the beginning. Trump can't win. Trump is the only candidate that Hillary Clinton can defeat. Nominate anybody else but Trump. And who did they go for? Trump. What does that tell you about how serious they are about stopping Hillary Clinton? Trump supporters, that is. Trump needs to reassure the skeptics. He needs to win over, which is, I don't think it's possible at this point because nobody would take him seriously. He needs to win over people not already won over. In other words, go beyond the 10% of the electorate that nominated him. He needs new, serious material, which, again, he's not capable of sticking to. But like an aging has-been rocker, he'd rather keep playing his greatest hits at Indian casinos and state fairs than actually put in the work and pivot. And, although, you could say that, well, maybe he's tried, or maybe he keeps trying and he just can't help himself. Which gets back to the mental illness theory of Donald Trump's diseased psyche. That's certainly worth looking into, but not for Hannity. Hannity doesn't seem to care, just like Trumplicans don't seem to care. Trump is sabotaging his own campaign every single day, and yet his supporters put the blame on everyone else and cheer Trump on because that's what they wanted. That's what they wanted to see. They love the fact that Trump isn't a normal politician. He's an outsider, they think. That's what they wanted to see. They didn't want it. They had 16 conventional politicians. They didn't nominate any of them. What does that tell you? And they don't want him, even if he was, let's say he was capable of changing, in which case what he would be saying now, and he said it just yesterday, is that he won't change. And he said that almost word for word yesterday. He's not going to change a thing. So let's say that he can change. He's not capable of it. Let's say for the sake of argument that he was. Even if he could change, he's already saying that he's not going to. Even when not going to would actually increase his chances of winning. And for Trump supporters, that would mean stopping Hillary. So you would think, if Trump supporters believe that Trump can change, and they've drunk so much Kool-Aid that they don't really care what he does at this point, if it's all about stopping Hillary, they should be begging. And Hannity, representing Trump supporters, should be begging Trump to change. Hannity should be challenging Trump. Where's that pivot you promised? Come on, we need it now. Time is of the essence. We don't have any time to lose. It's less than 3 months until Election Day. We got to stop Hillary, which means you have to pivot and you have to change it. You have to do it now. You have to do it yesterday, last month. And yet, Trump continues to sabotage his own campaign on a daily basis, and his supporters put the blame on everyone else and cheer Trump on. Which gets back to the fact that it was all about burning down the Republican Party. It was never about stopping Hillary Clinton. I mean, Trumplicans are Trump's worst enemies because they are enabling him, and by enabling him, they are sabotaging Trump's campaign, and by sabotaging Trump's campaign, they are putting Hillary Clinton in the White House again. If Hannity and Trumplicans really loved Trump, Hannity would play Ben Affleck to Matt Damon's Will Hunting and tell him he owes it to himself and the country to be more than what he is. Hannity should pull Trump aside and tell him, the best part of my day are those few minutes every morning before I look at the newspaper or turn on the TV when I think, hey, maybe today's the day Donald Trump doesn't beclown himself. So again, why, Sean? Why, Trumplicans? Why? Doesn't Trump listen to you? Don't you want to be listened to? I mean, if you are the self-proclaimed silent majority and Trump speaks for you, don't you think he should listen to you? And don't you think you should be urging him in the direction that maximizes his chances of winning, aka stopping Hillary? Didn't you believe your hero when he promised you all those times that he can and will pivot? If you did, why aren't you pissed as hell at him for lying to your face and your audience? I mean, he's humiliating you. He has bilked you. He has swindled you. He has played you. He has made fools out of you, and you won't admit it because you're so emotionally invested. And you're so cowardly that you won't admit it. You won't come out and say, hey, we were wrong. We were wrong. We wanted to believe. We turned off our brains. We betrayed our principles. And we alienated a lot of allies who were stronger, smarter, and more honorable than we were. We're sorry. Please forgive us. That's what every Trump supporter should be saying. But of course, they've become like their leader. They've become just like Donald Trump. What does that tell you about the likelihood of a reconciliation after this debacle a little under 3 months from now? I mean, why are you people happy to let your hero, Donald Trump, continue to pander to crowds that will already vote for him rather than make the slightest effort to persuade a constituency that would put him over the top? And I think that if he tried now, and if he was capable of sustaining it, and he tried now, he is so beclowned himself that he wouldn't have any credibility. Nobody would take it seriously. Or at least not enough. He would lose narrowly rather than losing hugely. I mean, do you think Trump is lying when he says he can be presidential if he wanted to? Because he is, whether he realizes it or not. If so, isn't that a source of concern? I mean, if he can't act presidential for 24 hours as a candidate, are you confident that he can be presidential for 4 years? And if so, why are you confident of that? You talk about blind faith. Why not publicly ask him to try to be a serious person for a week even? Because he couldn't even do that much. Unless the issue is that you know he can't be presidential, and that's why you supported him in the first place. So you don't want to risk asking him to be. In other words, maybe you prefer him this way. And you've convinced yourself that's the path to victory, even though that's the diametric opposite of the truth. Even though that is enabling Hillary Clinton to wage a front porch campaign, minimize her visibility, be the anti-Trump. I mean, don't you want the 500-watt Klieg watts, proverbially speaking, on Hillary rather than Trump? But Trump is such a glory hound, he can't stand the spotlight not being on him. This is another manifestation of why you don't want a narcissist as your nominee. But I mean, the candidate is supposed to represent a platform. It's not supposed to be about the candidate, him or herself. Maybe you just prefer to have stuff to gripe about every night to the Amen Corner. Isn't that why a lot of you Trump supporters tune in to Hannity? Or maybe deep down you realize just how massively you bleeped up and screwed us by backing Trump, and you'd rather pass the buck elsewhere. Or maybe you just want Hillary Clinton to win. You know, your candidate's fellow leftist. Well, you've done it. You've made this bed, Trumplicans, and we're going to make you lie in it for a long, long time.